Welcome back, my mystical warrior, watermelons, wallabaloo, walruses, anything you want to be, you can do it. But today we're going to be doing a discussion video on limit breaking. My thoughts, my opinions on it, is it good, etc. And yeah, I mostly doing this because I think discussion videos are... Well, I like doing discussion videos, and then I saw Hero Blazing's video on his like 30-minute or 20-minute Naruto video or whatever, and it kind of made me want to do my own discussion video. So I'm doing mine on limit break, and I'm going to be going over, like what limit breaking actually is, does it solve anything, or like, who's it worth it on, who isn't, things like that. So remember, this is my opinion, so feel free to disagree. But yeah, let's get started. So let's start with, I guess, the cost of limit breaking, right? So you can limit break 5 stars, you can limit break 6 stars, and 6 stars are significantly more expensive. So you need 166 3-star scrolls to limit break a 6-star character, and about, you gotta awaken like 25 of them. You need 25 4-star scrolls. Alright, so that's really obnoxious. Then you need 6 type crystals. So like the colored crystals that aren't the face crystals. Then you need 73 character crystals in total. And then of those 73, 56 are used for awakening. So you need like 14 awakened crystals. And then finally is the cost, right? Limit breaking itself is very expensive, and it costs about 5 million. Oh, it does cost 5,769,600 Ryu. So it's kind of obnoxious, but there's characters where it does benefit them. So if we check out a 5-star character, takes 17 type crystals, 0 character crystals, 58 3-star scrolls, and then 9 of those 58 you need to awaken 9 4-star scrolls, and then you have 497,600 Ryu, and that's for awakening a 5-star from 70 to 100, and then 6 stars go from 100 to 150. And on top of that, I gotta remind that you need the ramen to back it up. So it takes, it takes 4 4-star ramen to get a character from 0 to 100, and then it takes like 1, 2, 3, 4, 6, 8, 10, 12, 14, 17. It takes 17 4-star ramen to get a character from 100 to 150. So that is definitely fun. And then, of course, there's the horrible drop rates, etc. But let's go over the characters now, right? So 4 6 stars were released in the original set with Heroes and Limit Break Trials, and those were Naruto, Sasuke, Kakashi, and Gaara. And limit breaking, right, we never got a reason as to why limit breaking was released, but we can assume that it was to allow old characters to stay up to standards as the new characters being released. I'll give you a perfect example. Gaara, Bravery Gaara, Sand Defense, was a long range, is a long range character with 931 health and 891 attack. Now, you gotta remember that this character was top tier, highest quality character in the game. Doesn't get better than him on release. He was the guy you were re-rolling for. So, this was a quality character. Now, today's standards, if we get a 6-star long range release, I'll give you 1010 for example. She has 1,184 HP and 1,293 attack. So it's roughly 200 more health and 300 or almost 400, more than 400 attack. And that is today's stance, and I don't think 1010 is a good character. So Now, if you're looking at it that way, right, there's a difference, right? The characters being released are definitely better than the characters that were out originally. And the problem is not everyone has infinite money, so they can't keep on buying pearls to get the new characters. So you have to be able to beat content with your old characters, and then Limit Break comes out and it allows us to do that. Now, limit breaking is not good on everyone. I shouldn't say it definitely helps every character, but it's just not worth it on some. And here is a prime example. We'll take a look at Haku, right? Haku was released with the second limit break that came along with Zabuza, Kakashi, and Bundle Sakura. So Haku originally had 1442 HP and 892 attack. So, after the limit break, she got 600, almost 700 more health. So that put her at 21. That put Haku at 2167, and then he got about another 700 attack, put him at 1667. So, what's wrong with Haku, right? It doesn't change Haku's inherent problem, where the attack is still too low, and the jutsus aren't good enough. Right? And there's nothing else that's good. Now we can compare Haku to original Heart Naruto. Heart Naruto has roughly the same stats in both after limit break, right? 2087 health and 1675 attack, which is just maybe 10 off, give or take. So why does Heart Naruto work better than Haku? Well, he's not too much better, but he definitely helps out in like Phantom Castle. But the reason Naruto's limit break is better is because his field and buddy skill are useful. So you have boost attack by 80 to 160, and then buddy skill is boost attack by 115. And then you have the jutsu. It is single target, but it is 4 chakra. Right? That's the biggest thing. 4 chakra, and then Naruto's ultimate is 8 chakra. And the multipliers aren't bad. The thing is, 3.2 attack damage to an enemy in range is not far off from a multiplier we see today. Then you have Haku's is 2.5 attack to body damage to all enemies in range, and then 5.6 for ultimate to all enemies in range. But the problem is that it costs 5 and 10 chakra respectively, and the multipliers are low. So nowadays when you see AoE multipliers, they're usually, for normal jutsus, they're at 3 times attack, and you'll see them with like a 4 multiplier, and then you'll see usually 6 times attack on an ultimate, at least for AoE. And we can compare this to, like, I guess Sasori or Tenten even, right? Tenten is 3 times attack, 4 chakra for all enemies in range, and then her ultimate is 9 times attack to all enemies in range for 8 chakra. So we can see like there's an inherent problem with Haku, and that's why Haku isn't being used. So limit breaking doesn't change the problems that the character already has prior to the limit break. That's why for example, Skill Sasuke and Kakashi, right, the bravery Kakashi, were really good characters for the limit break. Like, Kakashi was already a good character, and even now he's fine, right? He has a really high multiplier. Like, his normal jutsu is 2.2 attack, but I believe the range is more consistent to all enemies in range, but 40% chance to reduce enemies attack for 5 turns, so that's still solid. And he has 100 more attack than Haku at 1776. Then his ultimate jutsu is a single target nuke for 7.2 attack to an enemy. So that's, those numbers are better than Haku's by a good amount. So it allows Kakashi to be a lot more useful with a limit break. Right? He was being used before limit break, and with a limit break, it just put him that much better. And Sasuke got a really solid limit break, right? He got about 1200 health up and about 900, almost a full 1000 attack up. So he had like the highest stats. He's only like passed by like Skill Sasuke. No, sorry, Skill Sasuke is only passed by like one Tail Naruto in terms of raw damage. So you have him sitting at like 2620 health and 2314 attack, and it's just some, his normal jutsu does 1.8 times multiplier, but it like generates an extra chakra. It it only costs 4 chakra. It can give slip damage. So his normal jutsu is really solid, which is why he's used. His ultimate jutsu is never touched. It's absolute garbage. Boosts own attack by 50% for 10 turns. For example, One Tail Naruto has that same jutsu on his normal, right, for 4 chakra, and it also refunds 2 chakra. So yeah, that his Sasuke's ultimate is absolute trash, but his normal jutsu makes up for it by a good amount. Then he also has a counter. Now, a character, let's see. I guess we can start going over, like, those are what I wanted to go over, why the limit break doesn't work for everyone, right? Let's give, we can go over that with Skill Kakashi, right? Hidden left eye, the one that has 6 perfect dodge for 3 turns. His problem is that, regardless of the limit break, his jutsus are horrible. Right, 4 chakra, 2.8 attack, and skill to 1 enemy. That's garbage. Right, 20% chance to immobilize is horrible rates. Right, if that was 60% chance to immobilize, okay, that's something. Then 6 perfect dodges for 3 turns on ultimate jutsu is really bad, because the flexibility of having it on a normal jutsu is that you can use it when you want to and still have 4 chakra remaining to use it again later. When you use it on an ultimate, 6 perfect dodges, right, you commit all your chakra to that 3 turns, and if the enemy just doesn't attack or doesn't do as much damage as he thought, you just wasted 8 chakra. So even with his solid stats as a limit break character, it doesn't change the fact that his character as a whole is badly designed. So for example, I'd say don't limit break Haku and Kakashi, because they're not worth it. Right? You're not going to use them either way, unless they're your only characters for their respective types. And now let's take a look at the current set. So we got Trials, the Legendary Gambler, that released 6 new cards. You got Neji, who can go to 2084 health, 2478 attack. That's solid. He has Tsunade has higher attack, but it's like now it's common with limit breaks because of this batch that characters can easily be in the 2000 attack range. Actually, Rasengan Naruto is the only one that doesn't hit 2000 attack. Every single other person in this batch goes to 2000 attack. So, and this limit break is really controversial, this last batch of 6 characters, because we got Rock Lee as a limit break, we got Neji as a limit break, and we got Tsunade as a limit break. 3 characters who personally I don't think needed a limit break at this time. They were fine characters and they could easily go on the game without using limit break. Rock Lee is the prime candidate, right? The dude had the highest attack in the game before, like anything else, like the highest base attack in the game, 2204. Now the dude can go to 2734 attack, right? That's literally the highest attack in the game. No one has a higher attack. We're not talking about like any multipliers or anything like that, just attack. And then you have like Shikaku Gara, who can go to 2258 attack as a mid-range. I think he's a lot better than Zabuza now. So it's like all these characters are getting limit breaks that I don't think needed them. And what does that say for the future? It says that anyone can get a limit break. Next thing you know, next batch of characters, we can have Minato getting a limit break, and it's gonna be perfect. Like if that happens, I don't know what's happening to this game, but it's definitely like not impossible after seeing this batch. So from here, whose limit break is actually worth it? So let's go over from the top. I went over Neji's stats, and okay, let's talk about Tsunade, because she's a little bit tricky. So she went up about 600 attack and 700 health, right? 2216 health and 2482 attack, and it's like, is it worth it? So Tsunade is a healer, as most people know. For 4 chakra, she restores 1280 HP per person in range. If she's by herself, she restores 1280. With 2 people, it's 1280 times 2. 3 people, 1280 times 3. But it's short range, so she needs to be right next to the person. And then it's a 7 attack multiplier for 1 enemy for ultimate jutsu, which is rarely used besides, I guess, quickly finishing off a boss. So what does the limit break do to her? Not much, right? She gets a solid attack stat line that she didn't need because she's not a damage dealer. But the biggest help is the health. So the health limit break is really important for characters that aren't damage dealers, because it makes your overall team that much tankier. And you know, you attack with every character, right? Like each turn you're attacking or whatever. But there's certain characters that you bring that are meant to do majority of the damage, right? If you bring Lee, you bring him because he does a lot of damage. You know, he has a counter, he can boost himself, etc. So not everyone will need an attack boost. Now, someone who did need an attack boost is Rasengan Naruto. You know, he was mid-range with a decent stat line, but he lacked, I guess, enough damage to put him over into a good spot. Right? He has a solid jutsu, 3 times attack to 1 enemy, and then boosts his own attack by 50% for 3 turns. So, you know, he does a lot of damage, right? 50% boost. So if he has roughly 2000 attack, it's like he had 3000 attack, then uses his jutsu, so that would do like 9000 damage to an enemy for normal jutsu, which is really good. And that's before any like type effective multipliers. And then he had a solid buddy skill, reduced damage received by 6%, but it gets outclassed now because most people nowadays that have that buddy skill have it 15%. So 15% is like the standard, I guess. Sasuke, the raid Sasuke had 10%, but that's because he's a free character. But moving on. So here, I think almost every single character in this batch is super solid with a limit break, right? They each, the people who needed it, I believed, were Chidori Sasuke, Rasengan Naruto, and that's it. Shikaku Gaara is debatable. You know, I wouldn't say he needed it, but it's definitely nice on him. The other 3 did not need it. But that being said, this limit break is the highest quality one, I'd say. So if you're deciding on who you want the limit break, definitely do this one, because all 6 characters greatly improve. I wouldn't say greatly improve. They're not wasted on any of these characters, right? None of these characters are bad inherently, so each of them gets a solid boost from limit break. Now we're gonna talk about, like, so Shikaku Gaara is another tricky one because he has almost 2300 attack as a mid-range, and Zabuza had the highest attack with 2000 whatever as a mid-range. Actually, let me see, he had 2034 as a mid-range, and that was considered busted. Right, you're giving a mid-range unit 2000 attack when originally short range are only capable of hitting that amount. And for those of you who like don't understand the trend, short ranges have the highest attack and health stat line because they have the shortest range, right? They can normally hit 1 person, maybe 2, and because of that, they're given a higher attack to compensate for their lack of reach. Lack of range. And then mid-ranges get a little bit less because they can hit more. Same thing with large. And then Minato's vast, but he's a little exception, right? He does about the same amount of damage as a mid-range unit while being like twice their size and covering half the map, because Bandai likes to screw around with us and not follow their own rules. There's no rules really, but not follow their own trends. Okay, so let's move on to the next thing, which is going to be the raid characters getting limit breaks and what I feel about this. After doing the Sasuke rating, getting him to 150, I do not want to do that again ever in my life, because it's like, what kind of phone game makes you farm 73? Like, 73 crystals is not something that you can do in a 2-hour block, right? It's something that took me about 6 hours non-stop, more than that, right? I had to do it over like 3 days, and I just got tired of it. All right, unless you're doing it with friends, luckily enough, I have, you know, the other YouTubers on here on Discord that we can talk to, and I do it with them. But if you're not doing it with anyone, you know, it's super obnoxious. You hate it doing on multiplayer, and I feel like it wasn't worth it. It's definitely nice. I just wanted that ultimate status, but after doing it, it's like, oh my god, I'm glad it's over. And then next thing you know is that Orochimaru gets the same limit break treatment. And his stat line is a lot worse than Sasuke, but it's definitely not bad because he is a mid-range unit. So for mid-range, I think for a limit break it's just a little bit lacking, which sounds about right because he's free. So it puts him just below an average mid-range limit break. His chakra, his jutsu costs are solid, and his ultimate is pretty good. So for him, this limit break is pretty decent, but my personal, opinion, I'm only going to like 130, 140 with him and then stopping. Or I'm just going to keep on going until I feel like wanting to jump off a building. But yeah. So, do I want to see more of these raids with limit breaks? No, I don't. I want a better solution. I don't have a solution to, tell you guys, but I want some sort of alternate, because this hurts my brain. Like, what kind of phone game makes you play like 8 hours a day just to get a character, right, to the highest potential quality? Like, holy potato. But I think I covered most of the limit break stuff that I wanted to talk about, and hopefully that gives you guys a better understanding of how I view limit break. And if you guys were lacking any knowledge on limit break, it kind of goes over that. So if you have any questions, leave them down below. If you have any suggestions on the next discussion, let me know, and let me know what you liked about it. So thank you guys for watching, and until next time, peace out.